You know when your phone gets really sluggish and you realize you have like 30 background apps open?
Oh, yeah, totally. Just draining the battery.
Right, exactly. Those apps are just quietly eating up your RAM, tracking your location even when you aren't using them. Well, today in this deep dive, we're actually applying that exact concept to your brain.
Which is a fascinating way to look at it, really.
I think so. So we're pulling from a stack of sources today. We're starting with that famous 2010 Harvard study on mind wandering by Killingsworth and Gilbert, and then moving into a 2019 clinical study on stress, all the way back to ancient Buddhist texts.
Quite the timeline we've got.
Yeah, seriously. Our mission here is to figure out if all this mental background processing is actually making us miserable.
Well, that 2010 Harvard study really did set the baseline for this entire field. I mean, it was huge. It found that we spend almost 47% of our waking hours thinking about something other than what we are currently doing.
Wait, 47%? That's like almost half our lives just spaced out.
Exactly. And the big takeaway back then was pretty bleak. They concluded that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind.
Right, but if we go back to that smartphone logic, having background apps running isn't inherently bad. Like if they're backing up your photos or updating your calendar, that's actually useful.
Yes, and that exact distinction is what cognitive neuroscientists have been drilling into over the last decade. Researchers like Smallwood, Schooler, and Christoph.
Because the original data just lumped it all together.
Right. The 2010 data put all mind wandering into one giant bucket. But the newer research actually separates it out. You have negative wandering, which is your rumination and catastrophizing. But then you have constructive wandering. And that is where your brain is doing actual productive work like creative insight, future planning, positive daydreaming.
Okay, hold on. Let me push back on that for a second. If I'm sitting in a boring budget meeting and I just zone out to plan my upcoming vacation, my boss is definitely going to call that a negative distraction.
Oh, absolutely, your boss will.
Right. So how is that constructive from a cognitive standpoint?
Well, because your brain is actively simulating future scenarios to, optimize a later outcome, it's really an adaptive mechanism.
Oh, I see. So it knows I don't need to pay attention.
Pretty much. Your brain recognizes the budget meeting requires minimal cognitive load, so it just autonomously reallocates your mental resources to a more complex problem.
Like figuring out my travel itinerary.
Exactly. The trouble really only starts when stress enters the picture.
Okay, so how does stress change that equation?
Well, the 2019 study in our stack shows that stress physically shifts your brain into a defensive posture.
Like a fight or flight thing.
Yeah, exactly. When you're stressed, the amygdala activates, so your background processing becomes heavily biased toward threat and loss.
So it stops planning fun vacations and starts aggressively scanning for worst-case scenarios.
Right. For people dealing with OCD, PTSD, depression, or anxiety, their default mode network gets essentially hijacked by this evolutionary survival mechanism.
Wow. So, that original 2010 conclusion was slightly off base then. It's not that a wandering mind is unhappy. It's that a threatened or worrying mind is unhappy.
Yes, exactly. A worrying mind is an unhappy mind, which forces us to rethink how we handle all this mental drift.
And this is where those ancient Buddhist texts come in, right?
Yeah.
The whole concept of the monkey mind.
You got it. Modern research and those ancient teachings actually converge beautifully here. The core issue isn't the wandering itself.
It's the way we react to it.
It's the unconscious mental time travel where you get caught up in emotional fusion.
Okay, wait, let's break down emotional fusion for a second. Are we talking about, like, when a thought feels so real that your body physically reacts to it?
Yes, precisely. Emotional fusion is when you lose the distance between yourself and the thought.
Like remembering an awkward conversation from 5 years ago and actually blushing.
Yes. You aren't just having a passing memory. Your brain treats it as current reality, and you physically re-experience the embarrassment. You fuse with the thought.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
We all do. So mindfulness, therefore, isn't about forcing your brain to achieve zero wandering. It's about reducing that fusion.
It's a lot like walking a puppy. If you're walking a puppy, you don't get angry and start yelling when it wanders off to sniff a bush.
Right. You'd be a pretty terrible dog owner if you did.
Exactly. You just notice it wandered, and you gently guide it back to the path.
That is a perfect analogy. Even the most experienced meditators have their minds wander off to sniff bushes.
They just notice it faster.
Exactly. They notice it faster, and they don't beat themselves up for drifting. They simply redirect their attention. The objective is noticing the wandering quickly and choosing to return intentionally.
Man, that changes the whole paradigm. We don't need to eradicate 47% of our mental activity. We just need to steer it.
We need to choose wisely where to place our attention once we notice the drift, rather than, fighting the brain's natural processing.
I love that. Well, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final challenge.
Oh, I like challenges.
The next time you catch your mental battery draining, when your mind inevitably drifts away from the present moment, don't immediately yank yourself back.
Just pause for a second.
Right, pause and ask yourself, where exactly did my mind just go, and what problem was it secretly trying to solve for me?